It's Lisa from Been There, Got Out, and I am really excited to welcome back our friend Tracy Malone. She's the author of this book, Divorcing Your Narcissist. You Can't Make This Shit Up. And let's see, here she is. Okay, good. Let me do this, Tracy. There. Okay, but yay!
Hi.
Good. I can hear the volume. All right. Awesome. 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 So Tracy, I love having you on because you're just so much fun. And even before we met, I don't know if I've said this on lives before, but you were one of our gurus. Like we were just like stumbling around, like not sure what to focus on before my life became like the court nightmare. And, but your stuff was so interesting and so funny. Like I loved how you always had a sense of humor with everything. And I remember before we met, when we sent, I can't remember, we asked for something, put it out there, and you responded and you're like, oh, come on. And we were like, oh my God, my daughter you talked to my daughter. We were all like fans.
Yay.
So I'm so glad that now we've become friends and we do these collaborations together. And I'm thrilled about your book. I'll flash it again. Yay. Divorcing Your Narcissist. You Can't Make This Shit Up. I don't usually curse on live, but I have to.
It's
of course,
the title.
Off camera is another story. But thanks everyone so much for joining us. So Tracy, you want to talk a little bit about how this book came into being or anything else about yourself before we get into some of the meat?
Sure. So I did not write this book about my divorce. I wrote it because I coach so many people and I watch what they've gone through for the year and a half, however long I'm with them as they go through the process. And I'm just like, everyone needs to know what could potentially happen so that they're not blindsided. And I was totally blindsided. So I really wanted everybody to have some insight, like this could happen, but to prevent that from happening, do this. So that was my whole premise of it.
I know. I always think like another great subtitle would be, if I knew then what I know now.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah. If I only knew. Absolutely.
Yeah. How much time, money, energy, craziness.
Yes, absolutely. The defending ourselves against stupid false allegations is probably one of the things I would have done differently. You know, I would have said, no, actually you proved that I'm a thief because there's no evidence, but I was all like, let me prove I'm not. So I would.
Okay, let's get right into that. Let's start with the lies, false allegations, and smear campaigns, because that seems to be a huge thing for most of our clients as well, especially as they go through the legal system.
Absolutely. And it is the most painful thing because the person that you have been sleeping next to for X many years is like telling things to people that are simply not true. And I always start by asking my clients, and I'm going to ask you for your input here, why do they lie?
Why do they lie? Okay. I'm thinking of a couple of reasons. I think they're delusional. I think that part of the lie, like this is something that I think is really common when a relationship ends, they can't face the fact, and we say this to our clients, they can't face the fact that they failed at something. So they failed at being a spouse. Mm-hmm. So instead of confronting that deep sense of abandonment and failure, they have to turn it outward and turn their rage into blaming someone else for that. So they'll make up all kinds of things to paint a picture of that you're the one who's the problem, not them. So it's a method of deflection. So that's my best answer.
And that's a perfect answer. But I want to input that they are rewriting history, right? Yeah. If everything was like kind of not normal in a narc relationship, but if everything was on this level, they have to not be the bad guys, as you said. So in order to not be the bad guys, they usually come out of the gate swinging these false allegations and lies, because then you're put into like defense mode and you are trying to save yourself. And so when they are rewriting history, it's because they can't take responsibility, as you said, for anything. Can't be their fault, has to be you. And so in many of the lies that they put out there, they usually have a little nugget of truth, a little bit that only they might know or that your family might know, and they just elaborate it and build it up because people believe it if there's just a little bit of truth, you know, like using the lie that you're an alcoholic. I mean, that's a pretty common one, right? Alcoholic, drug addict, whatever they're going to call you. But when they're saying something like that, that you're an alcoholic, they will use background information. Remember last 4th of July, we were together. She had so much to drink that night. I was so worried about her, but now I see it's clear alcoholism, right? So they've taken that one party that you had fun at, and they're mushing it into the lie, because people will be like, I remember that party, yeah. And then they build upon this whole alcoholic narrative because you were drunk at one party.
And actually, Tracy, you're making me think of something that I think that they perpetuate the lie before the relationship ends. When they sense an end is coming, they will drop little hints to other people. I know my ex was like saying to people, I'm really concerned about Lisa, blah, blah, blah. And my friend told me much later, like, I was like, what are you talking about? But it's like they plant those seeds of doubt, and they do the same thing with our children, where they'll say, oh, mom's just this or dad's just this. And it starts way before the split, when they sense that's coming, I think.
It starts the minute they like meet your friends. They are ascertaining who is the weak link, like who in the family makes jokes about you and laughs at his jokes. And I'm sorry, I'm just saying men there, but it could be either sex. But like, they are looking for the ones that are going to be in the corner, ha 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 ha, you know, they're going to be giggling with them through all of those years. And then they're the ones they've created this special bond with that will then perpetuate and push the lie even farther.
Yeah, and I think another thing that you made me think of with the things that they lie about is, we know that early on in the relationship, during the love bombing, that they often will keep you up late at night and have this sense of quick intimacy. Like it feels, and they'll a lot of times you'll be really tired because you stay up late having these long talks, and they'll get information from you because they'll say, well, I never told anyone this about me. And they'll have some typical line, and you'll confess things to them, and then they save it. And then they'll come back with that stuff, and it's like, oh, like my deepest secret. How could you use this against me? And of course, it'll be all twisted.
Absolutely. And if you think about it, the lie started the day you met them as well, because they're lying about who they are. I mean, It's based on a foundation of lies. So, you know, going a little bit farther in either direction is not that far from what they've been doing without your knowledge all the way along, right? You know, they aren't who they said they were going to be. This last relationship wasn't what it was. They were the perpetrator versus the victim that they always have the stories of. So these relationships are built on a foundation of lies. So it's very easy to take that right into the divorce and move it from the lie about you being an alcoholic into the judge and into the courtroom, where it now is a false allegation. So we've graduated from just a lie that they're telling your friends or your family to a place where, like, wait, now you have to defend myself. I'm not a bad parent. I'm not an alcoholic. Whatever it is, it takes it from the lie to a false allegation. And now you have to defend yourself. And that's where it gets sticky, right?
Yeah, because it's not usually one false allegation. It's like a list of pages and long descriptions, and they're fast and furious in these motions. And I can't even count how many people have sat there like terrified, because sometimes they almost forget what the truth is, because it's on paper and it's been submitted as a formal legal document, a motion on a docket, and it's preserved. And so people are just so scared and feel like, well, this must mean that it's going to be seen as truth, right? Because it says it right there.
Right.
Like that person's suing me for their legal fees when I'm the one bringing that person in for contempt. Like, what if the judge believes them?
That's the biggest fear. Everybody has that fear. That's why the first chapter of my book is understanding your fears, so that you can like understand that before the rest comes, right? You have to know that these are fear tactics. These are strategies, and every lie and every false allegation and every smear that they do has an intention, and knowing what the intentions are gonna like help you not absorb it. Because when we are like attacked and you're saying, oh my God, all these things are going to get out there. Oh my God. And you're in panic at your reputation and your livelihood and in your children's eyes, right? So you're sitting there trying to defend all that. But then the smearing, and it goes into the next level from false allegations to smearing and telling all these people things. But if you think about something that a common one, that you are cruel and you treat them terribly, they are holding up a victim card, right? If they are, you prevent them from seeing their friends. Now it's the isolation card. These are all the things they're doing to you, right? So it is exactly like if it's a false, I have a quote right here. Where is it? If it's a false allegation, it's what they're doing, right? And so when they're sitting there accusing you of keeping them from their friends, or you turn to the children against them, now they have this, sort of false allegation that is the victim card, that you are taking away their children. You're so mean, and you refused intimacy. That's a big one. Like, again, it doesn't matter in the court of law. It really doesn't matter, even in states, unless you cheated and there's no fault thing in those states. But for the most part, you refused intimacy because they were jerks. You want nothing to do with them, and now they're and you gave them sex all the time, but now you're sitting here being blamed for it. And again, you're sitting there going, wait, that's not what happened. Like, I was like sick to the death to sit next to this person, much less sleep with them, right?
I know. I just was looking at something the other day, and it resonated where it's like I cringe when I think about how I let that person touch me. Yeah. So.
Right. But again, now this turns them into the victim because you withheld sex and you weren't really doing your, marital duties, if whatever the case is. But they have a reason and a method behind it. That's important for people to understand. I was accused of, first of all, let me just say, my husband did nothing. I mean, nothing. And that included the bills. He wanted nothing to do with it. He didn't know where our banks were, like, even though he opened them, like, hello, but he wanted nothing to do with that. I was in charge of the bills. That's your job. I'll do this, right? That's what I did. I paid the bills. I didn't like paying the bills. It was just a job. I did it. He then turned that around to that I was controlling all the money. And
so you're the financial abuser.
I am the financial abuser from that one little nugget of truth. Yeah, I did the bills. It wasn't my choice. And I was very frugal and careful with our money, unlike him. But at the same time, now I'm the one that's financially abusing him and not letting him have access to his money. And, that really went a long way with all of our friends. Oh my God, you're the one working so hard and she's taking your money. Oh, you poor baby. That's why they lie, because those narratives work.
Tracy, how do you deal with it, or how do you suggest people deal with it when the friends turn? Because that's really hard. I mean, we see that a lot. Sometimes members of the person's own family align with the toxic one because they are so insidious.
It is the most hurtful thing is when they steal your family, your parents and your siblings and other relatives, because they've kind of closed a door for you that is all of your support, all of your base, right? And that's the reason. We go back to the why. The reason is, if I tell them all these bad things, I can isolate her. She'll have no support, right? So when we are telling people how to deal with this, it could be situational. It could be that they have to get through the divorce without that family. It's not forever, is what I'm saying. Sometimes these wounds go very deep and you have to cut off your family because of your divorce. And so it's a fine line. Everybody's story is going to be different. But, for the most part, when they've taken your friends, you have to learn to let them go, because a true friend would have come to you, running to you, saying, you're not going to believe what he just said to me. I can't believe the stories. And tell me what the truth is, right? A real friend would have said that. Someone that doesn't even come to you, this is the good riddance part. This is the part where their loyalty has been tested and they failed. And so this is where we have to let go of them. And it doesn't matter if they've been your friends for 30 years. If they're gone to the dark side, there's no getting them back. There's no talking them into it. So at this time, during the divorce and until things settle down, you may have to be no contact and not, give any information to them because they can go right back and become flying monkeys. So you have to kind of cut these people out. Is that what you tell people as well?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking, like, as you're talking, I'm thinking of like a bunch of stuff. And of course, I don't want to interrupt you, even though sometimes I will. But yeah, have you heard the term betrayal trauma?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's making me think, usually until this conversation, I thought about betrayal trauma as relating to your spouse or your intimate partner who's betrayed you, and it makes it so much worse. But also when it comes to your own family or really close friends that you've had for years, why is that really any different? It just hurts so much worse because it's someone that you trusted that has completely betrayed you. So that makes the trauma harder.
Absolutely. And again, picking the ones that get to stay in her life, the ones that are true, that are there. And sometimes people end up with nobody. Like you and I both know clients that everyone has been stolen from them, from family to friends. And, the false allegations of whatever you did or having you arrested for child abuse or calling Child Protective Services and going into that sort of like supervisionarily kind of role where the court is now evaluating every parent decision you make. Right? When they've put you in there, your friends are like, we don't know who's right or wrong. We're just going to stay back here. Like they don't know how to react. When it escalates to that level of crazy, they don't know who to believe. Real friends do, not the ones that are on the fence.
Right. And that's making me think too of people that have been isolated when they don't have any support and they don't have any friends. In some ways, it makes other people who don't understand the nature of domestic abuse and this kind of legal abuse and everything else, it makes them less likely to believe them. So they're even more invalidated. So it's like, oh, well, nobody's on your side. Well, then maybe there's a reason. So I'm not going to be on your side either.
Exactly. It helps with the whole isolation. I just saw someone's comment going along that they lost one of their siblings or their siblings as well, right? It happens in all the cases. My younger sister, who is now passed, but she offered to testify against me during the trial. And
we have a client with the sister testifying against her also, trying to take the kids away.
Oh, see? Yeah.
Yeah.
But mine never actually made it into a courtroom because there was nothing she could testify that anybody cared about. But, she was, I believe, also being paid by my ex. So she was poor and a drug addict, and they would, hey, you want some information? Sure. How much, So it's pathetic that they can steal your family members like that. But it happens all the time.
I know, but not to people in the normal divorce world. And for them, when they hear stories like this, they can't believe it. Yeah. Like I'm not sure how long your divorce took, but mine, it's over, but we're still 8 years dealing with not complying with orders. People always say to me, how could you not be done yet? And I'm worried. I actually was just putting a blog together for the first time in like 2 years, where I'm worried that the more time that passes, the fact that it keeps going on, that what if judges just say, well, there must be something wrong with her because somebody else would have taken care of it beforehand. And then I have to go get reassurance from my support that are like, that's not going to happen. You're getting interest, all this other stuff, like just calm down. But it's terrifying.
Yeah. I've had clients with 5-year divorces. I've had clients with 5 lawyers, 2 or 3 versions of forensic accountants and things like that. I mean, it just becomes such a long, drawn out process. And someone, I think it's Joan down there, says nobody can relate. They can't.
Right.
There's just, this isn't in the realm of the normal divorce. And, I've been like kind of mushing my way into the divorce community other than the narc divorce. And it's surreal to them. They don't understand, that Child Protective Services is called and this is happening and this is happening. Normal divorces, like if you decide you don't love each other anymore, you go, all right, let's talk about the kids, let's talk about the assets, and let's be kind to each other, right? With a narcissistic divorce, it is all about war. It is about the game. It is about the fight. And they are going to do anything they can to take you down. Because if you, oh, look, someone said theirs is going on 10 years.
I know.
Holy moly. Oh my God, I am so sorry.
Yeah.
This is crazy. So yeah, these are common, long, lengthy things. And again, not in the book of normal divorce. And so judges don't even see it. We know there's judges that are just not getting it. And it's a horrible place to be.
Yep. Yep. And then they're irritated because why are you still here? It's like, because you haven't enforced the orders. I'm still waiting. Yeah. Yeah. It is really, really hard. Okay. So
sure.
in the
For
beginning,
sure.
you said something that you would have done differently, Tracy, was to not address the false allegations the way that you did. What would you have done differently?
I would have demanded that they prove the false allegations. Like I was accused of stealing money, and yet never in my year divorce did it ever occur to me to go, wait, you guys haven't even submitted one single piece of paper, like a statement, like not one. So where am I stealing money from? Like, we just went into this defense mode, and I would have said, show us the proof, because that's what court is about. If you have proof, show it to us. There was no proof. And yet we wasted probably $20,000 battling that particular lie.
Right, right. And that's obviously like a distraction from the more significant things. That just keeps it going.
Right. Well, it's smoke and mirrors, right? If we're sitting here playing defense, we can't actually look at what they're doing. We can't go after them, because my lawyers are like dedicated to doing what they have to do to defend these lies. That's one of the things I would have done differently. And I think realizing sooner that it wasn't worth fighting over. I mean, the amount of money, it was 3-4 times more than I was going to get to have the divorce. So it just wasn't worth it. Like, cut bait and get out quicker, because we had already sold the house. A lot of people are in that position where things are already liquid. Like, it's in the bank and it's liquid and you're done. That's a lot easier than who's going to stay in the house and who's going to take care of the children. We didn't have any of those things. So it should have been a slam dunk. Here's
wow. Oh, I didn't realize that.
There was nothing to fight over. It was my kid, not his. It was, the house was sold. The money was in escrow in the bank.
Yeah.
So, and there was nothing to fight over. I would have stopped sooner if I had known what I know today.
What was the thing that finally got you to the end?
I believe it was because he was in his 6th time being in contempt of court and ordered to come in that day with stuff, or like they were going to throw the book at him and put him in jail. That's when papers came in, and he gave him like 4 pages. To my 5,000, he gave like 4 pages. And I don't even know why. Like, I would have said, why didn't he just copy my 5,000 and print them out? Like, I mean, if you can't, I'm blocking you from getting your own statements by walking into the bank, right? No, he never did it. But that was where it really got to the point where, I mean, the judge is threatening him, you're going to jail, sir. And then, here's your alimony, have a nice day. That stamp, that's all we needed from the beginning.
Yeah, and just hearing that he already had 6 counts of contempt before the topic even seriously came up.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was trial after trial after trial, and he would threaten, the judge would threaten, if you don't come back next month, we're gonna, nothing would happen. And I'd sit there going, why isn't anything happening?
Same. I was like, how many times are we gonna keep coming back with the threats? And to me, that the way the system is, when they do that, when they just make threats, it's almost like parents raising an awful spoiled brat, where you're like, if you don't do this, I'm going to punish you. I'm going to punish you. I'm going to punish you. And the kid's like, ha, 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 does whatever they want. So it emboldens people like these to take advantage of the system, because they know they can get away with it, because no one's ever going to do anything about it. And people get sick of coming back. They say, nothing's happening. I'm done. It's not worth that time, money, and energy.
Yeah. And if I can add into this, one of the biggest mistakes I see, and again, I did not have this because it was my son, not his, but the parenting plans, what you just described was the frustration at the end. Just get it over with. I just want to sign. Just get me out of here, right? And that's the point, usually, where parenting plans are kind of thought up. And I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight about anything else. And this is the next 18 years of your life, right? Of all the things you should be fighting for, it's the proper rules and regulations of how you're going to co-parent together. And you know, narcissists have worked you up to the point where you surrender too quickly. And that part comes in and it's like Christmas this year, Christmas next year. That's all we have on the parenting plan. Have a nice day. And then issue after issue and back to court because it's not as detailed as it should have been.
Yeah, you know, I'm thinking we did an interview with this woman from a parenting app called Custody Exchange. And one of the questions was, when should you start putting your parenting plan together? And she said, when you are thinking about breaking up. Because we know how long these legal things take. So someone's like, well, when we get the divorce finalized, then we'll do the parenting plan. What about all that time in between when there has to be some kind of visitation access schedule?
Right. Well, that part should be by your lawyer going in for temporary custody and some of the support for the children. That should be taken care of right at the beginning. And I'm surprised how many times it's not.
Right. And a lot of times, yeah, but even temporary orders have to be, they should be really excellent because that's the foundation. A lot of temporary orders become permanent. So if you don't have something really tight at the beginning, and that's why we always say to people, you need to get ahead of this. Like, don't wait for someone to offer it to you. You need to get ahead of it. You need to have it organized, ready, like come in with your stuff and your suggestions and let it go from there. Don't just wait and say, oh, I'm waiting for my lawyer to, you know, put together something because that's their job. No.
I just find that lawyers are so lazy when it comes to all the possible things they could tell you that you could ask for. I've been building a parenting plan course for the last year. It's probably a couple months away because we have like worksheet craziness going on right now and laying them out. But again, it's like for education, I have 19 pages of Word doc for the things that you should think about, right? Do you want this? Like, what's going to happen here? Summer school. No one ever freaking talks about that.
Right.
What about, like, we don't look at these things. And yet, if you've got joint decision making, they can simply go, I don't think they need summer school. But the teacher does. Well, it doesn't say anywhere where I have to make that decision. So no, we're not going to summer school. Or if there's a cost involved, right? Who's going to split the cost? Because one parent's going to end up absorbing that if you've never negotiated that.
Right. Or even as you're saying that, I thought of two other things. With visitation, sometimes when someone's relocated, one parent is responsible for driving all the way to that other person's place. And it seemed, you know, you got to figure out how much is it going to cost to get the child here? Who's going to pay for the plane tickets and all of that stuff?
Yeah. So on when I divorced my son's father, which is not the narc, but son's father, we then knew daddy moved us from Connecticut across the state, across the country to Colorado. So we're 2,000 miles away from his father. So the parenting plan, which was very minimal really, had to be redone. And we got the raw end of the deal. It was every other weekend from Connecticut to Colorado, we paid for his father to fly, his hotel, and his car.
You are kidding.
And every other weekend, I had to fly my son back to Connecticut, stay in Connecticut to be able to fly him back 2 days later and then put him back in school. So like it was about a $6,000 travel bill a month. And thankfully, his father didn't continue doing it for very long. It was way too much work for him. And he worked weekends, so he forgot about that when he asked for it. But thankfully, we didn't have to do it for long. But it was still so costly and so stupid. So if you don't have a relocation, like, clause in the original parenting plan that outlines how far can someone go before other things happen, financial, you know, traveling like I just described. If you don't have that in there, you're going to get caught and you're going to end up like a client that was 45 miles away was where she had in the original document. And she wanted to move 47 and it cost her about $20,000 to fight for the other 2 freaking miles. And her ex-husband, who saw the kid once every 6 months, wanted a car out of the deal. He's like, well, buy me a car, but you still have to pick up the kid and drive the kid back and forth the 45 minutes every day.
Oh.
So again, those little details and seeing those mistakes is what built my passion to tell people this is what you've got to do, because they're going to lie, they're going to cheat, they're going to like make everything. Yeah, we don't have an agreement on that. You know, your child support pays for camp. Well, it never said that, and that may not be true, right? So lay this stuff out and think about your children's future, not just that they're 5 now.
Exactly.
You know, they're going to be 18 and they're going to be 16 and they're going to be driving a car. What's your car policy? You know, college applications, the cost of that is astronomical. You know, who's going to pay for that? And maybe set a budget. Okay, we can both split it, but here's the budget for applications. If you do that in the parenting plan, you'll be set 18 years from now.
Yeah, yeah. But none of us tend to think about that stuff because most of us have never been through the process before, and we just place ourselves at the mercy of our attorneys and say, you're going to take care of this for me, right? I mean, I would have never considered anything like this.
And if a lawyer sees that you have a high conflict situation where you've been in court like you and I over and over and over again, right? If they see that, they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to poke the bear and make suggestions. So they do the minimal like parenting plan. And it is the biggest disservice because this is the person you need it with, not, you know, a normal divorce where you can just talk about, can we swap next Tuesday? Sure. Okay. Right. That's not who you're going to get with a narcissist, but the lawyers get lazy because they know, oh God, this is never going to end if we ask for that extra weekend or something. They don't want to fight for it because A, you're running out of money, and B, to them, it's just another battle. They'd rather just get it away and give you a dumb parenting plan.
Yep. Like everyone else, just agree and get out of here. You'll figure it out later.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about your 3-bucket strategy.
Okay, so the 3-bucket strategy is based on how you protect yourself from triggering yourself when you tell people about the divorce. So this is in the book, and it outlines dividing your friends into 3 buckets. So the highest, bestest friends. The middle might be friends and family, safe ones. And then the lower bucket is really people that we often tell too much to. Neighbors.
I was just going to say that.
Coworkers, mailmen, just all these people that don't need church people. That's a very big one, right? If we think about the going to church and telling one friend, right? Every time you tell the story, you get triggered. You are sitting there in, and they're asking questions, which pulls more out of you. And so you're sitting there now in this dialogue, and now you're about to walk into church, but you're like all ramped up and freaking out because of it. And then you leave church, and the next week somebody comes back. I heard you're getting a divorce. Oh no, what are you going to do? Right. And you've got all this like, and now you're triggered again. And so
that's such a great point, Trey. I mean, I've heard stuff like that before, but I love how you put it. And it's just every time you tell it, you get triggered. And especially at the beginning when your brain is already dealing with PTSD most of the time, it just keeps working at your amygdala to like make it worse and worse and worse.
Oh yeah, and it's a scary thing. You don't even know that you're being triggered. You're just like, and you want to tell people, you want them to know, and so you just go into, I call it story barfing in the book. You just
that's right. I remember.
Here's everything. Oh my God, and she's doing this and he's doing that, and oh my God, and they're trying to take the kids and they're telling them I'm alcoholic, right? And you've got this long laundry list of all these terrible things that are happening to you, and it's triggering you. So by determining who goes in what buckets, right? And let's just say people are in the middle bucket, a friend of yours, and maybe they're not your bestie because they would be in the other bucket, but they say dumb things like, everyone gets a divorce, get over it, or your husband was so nice. How could you say these things? I don't believe anything you're saying. If they say things like that, they get demoted to the lower bucket and you don't give them any more personal information. Also, if you aren't sure of their loyalty, don't tell your best man anything about the divorce because they're going to go running back to the spouse, right? So knowing who to tell is really important, but also small snippets of story. So it's almost like an elevator speech that you create for each, at least the lower bucket and the middle bucket people. And for the lower bucket, they come up to you at church and like, oh my gosh, you're getting a divorce. You know, what's happening? What's going on? Your elevator speech gets pulled out and it says, you know, after all these years, we've just grown apart and, you know, we're going to be okay. I'm excited about my new life. You know, instead of, oh no, where are you going to live? And then you're like, I don't know where I'm going to live, right?
Right.
Like, I don't know where I'm going to live, but this person in church doesn't need to know it because that's going to trigger me. That's going to trigger. And now you walk in to church with this like much better attitude going, I just told her everything's going to be fine. It's almost like it's reassuring you that it's going to be fine.
Yeah,
So,
it's almost like an affirmation that you're making for yourself. Like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. I just said it out loud.
I'm excited about my new life. I don't know what it's going to bring me, but I can't wait, right? They have nothing to come back at. And if they do come back with, well, what about the kids? You know, they're going to be fine too. How's your new puppy? And you change the subject and you go back into church, right? Just don't let those stories become something that becomes a weapon against you, because it hurts to hear it and say it over and over. And the more you say it, the more you'll be triggered back into PTSD, back into trauma. And by having this crafted elevator speech, I'm going to pull this out. They don't need any more information in that bucket. I'm not going to tell them it because I don't want them to be a piece of flying debris later, whether they tell other church people or other neighbors, right? You don't want the whole neighborhood as you pull in going, ooh, there she is. You just don't want that. So really being very discerning about who you tell what, and that's going to protect your heart.
Yeah, you know, this is making me think about even before I knew that I wanted a divorce, I kept everything really, really private because I was worried. Like, I told like 3 friends, and this was for 2 years when I knew it was probably ending. And I did it. And I know certain people were hurt, like people in my family were hurt because I'm really close to them. But I figured if I tell my family, then they'll hate him forever. And so if there's any chance that we will stay together, because we were trying like the couples therapy, which of course is the worst thing, but if we kept trying and then it worked out, I just didn't want to make it like a final thing. Because you know how with domestic abuse situations, like we can forgive, but then the people that love us remember and they're like, we're done.
Yeah, exactly. It's really all about protecting your heart and not letting anybody who could use this against you know it. It's like we don't know who's flying monkeys, so we need to protect ourselves from that, where they're going to pass the information. And you know, when we talk about flying monkeys, these are your friends that get recruited, and sometimes they are true on ugly, I'm going to get her kind of people, right? And then there's sometimes where they are convinced by the narcissist in this loving way by, you know, that little bit of truth. I'm so concerned about Tracy. You know, how is she doing? You know, last we talked, she was this, and they're going to your friends and neighbors, and your friends are, oh, but he cares about you. So I told him everything that's going on, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or how about, oh, but I know he still loves you.
Yeah, that's again, the flying monkeys. That's what they are planted from your ex to give you that message. Now you feel guilty. Now you feel like you're doing something wrong. Now you're, you know, conflicted for even a second, but it's still like what's going on here? And why does my mother think that they're the best person and I'm not? Why are they believing the lies on that side versus their own child?
Yeah, I'm thinking also we know several people who are dealing not just with a group of friends, but like a whole community where their ex is a prominent name. And Tracy, you and I know certain people with prominent names who are very toxic themselves, but people tend to believe them because they're at the front of something. So when someone's still living in a community or dealing with a community where there's like their ex is very well known, like how do they deal with that? Because that's far bigger than just a circle of friends or the judge where it's like they're surrounded. I'm thinking religious communities in particular.
Yeah, very often people have to change churches, or have to move. I mean, when you are talking about that kind of community, it's not a good thing, and it is something where you can't find anyone that's safe. It's really scary for people. So knowing that this is the community and they're so well respected, it's learned to not fight that battle. Those that believe it are not your true friends, and those that question and come to you are worthy of saving. But when it's a community like that, and you've only got one friend and everyone else has gone to the other side, it's not going to be comfortable. And if you've got kids and they're in school systems and your ex is like telling smears about you at school, again, what are the options? Can you change schools? Can you move? if that was in the parenting plan, maybe you could, right? That's why you have to prepare for those sort of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's these things, these divorces and everything, and the smear campaigns and feeling isolated. It is really hard. I think people don't understand how much it affects your life. And going through something like this, we know has horrible physical effects. Like I'm sure you have clients also who have had cancer, right? And
Oh, yeah.
all kinds of like awful things with their glands, like a lot of endocrine issues and stomach issues,
Oh,
and tremendous stress.
absolutely. And it causes that. I mean, this kind of stress, this kind of disruption of your life causes illness. I have a book up on my shelf. There's one, The Body Keeps the Score. Mind's Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. They just outline, you know, if you have this, you were holding in your emotions. You didn't feel like you could speak up. I mean, it's got all the why you got cancer right there. And you're like, oh my God, you're right. You know, every time I hold that up when someone gets on the screen and says, yeah, you know, I have PTSD, but I also got cancer because of this, or I can look it up and I read it and they cry and they're like, you're right. Oh my God.
I know, it's so validating, right? And that's the beginning of the healing, where you're just like, wow, it's not just me.
Yeah.
I thought it was just me. I hate that line. It's so overused. You're not alone, but it's not just you.
Yeah, it really isn't. And again, that's no, you know, no comfort because it's happening to you, right? But at the same time, when people do meet others, like in my support groups, I meet others, they are like so much more validated than if I was just doing a one-on-one. They're like, oh, sisters, you know, it really bonds people so much. So I really tell people to get into a support group, because if you are feeling that lonely and you are feeling that sad, getting into a support group is going to validate you. Whether it's a Facebook group and you're having a bad night and you post something, people are going to answer you. They're going to give you that support that you need.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So with that, Tracy, you want to talk to people about your site and your groups and tell people where they can get this amazing book?
Sure. So the book, which I think Divorcing Your Narcissist, you can't make that up. I've got it on Audible and Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Kindle and anywhere you can find books. It's out there. And my website is narcissist-abuse-support.com. And I have thousands of resources pulled together from support groups in every state and domestic violence agencies, legal aid services for those that can't afford to pay a lawyer. I just like gathered all these resources and have them there for everybody to, you know, there's a blog, there's so much you can download and work.
And you have a YouTube channel too.
I do, and I just hit 2.5 million views.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
I know. I never imagined. I kept saying if I just could help one person, it would make my story worth it. And then that number just came the other day and I was like, oh, look at that. So,
well, you definitely helped me. Definitely. Years ago, I was like, oh, I love this.
Yeah.
So
I have the people that were my guides when I was learning as well. And I hold them always in my heart to be like ever grateful.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I know the feeling, Miss Guru.
yeah, hello, guru. Guru sounds weird, but yeah, I'll take it. I'm a guru of narcs.
Yes. All right. So thank you so much, Tracy, for coming on again.
Thank you for having me. I love being here. You're so much fun.
So are you. So we'll have to do it again.
We will. Maybe when
all right. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. We'll talk about that next time. So this is for your book. Our book is coming out at the end of the year, and then you can interview me.
Absolutely. And I just printed out some introductory chapters to read this weekend and review for you. So I'm very excited.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Tracy.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay. We'll catch up later.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.